What is going on, people? TripleM back again with another video. It's daily list of football content, and today I would like to talk about Diogo Dalot because I genuinely feel like he's been one of the most impressive players, if not the most impressive player to watch for Manchester United this season. And the reason why I feel that way is three things really. One, how quickly he's adapted to Erik ten Hag's system. Two, the personal development and the personal growth that he has shown as a player in terms of ironing out some of his weaknesses and what he offers the team going forward. And three, his mentality, his attitude, his application, and just how hard he works and what he brings to the team in terms of the psychology element. So those are the three things I'm going to talk about in today's video. I want to start with what he brings to the team tactically. As we know, Ten Hag is somebody who likes playing with inverted fullbacks. What that basically means is he wants his fullbacks to tuck in whenever we're attacking, not on both sides, obviously. So if we're attacking down the left-hand side, when Manchester United are playing against a low block, typically we employ this 3-1-6 shape. This 3-1-6 shape relies on two things. One, obviously both of our defenders knowing how to play a high line and being comfortable in a high line. But two, the fullbacks knowing when they should invert versus when they should bomb forward. So again, generally when we're attacking down the left-hand side, Marcus Rashford playing as an inside forward, if he's not playing through the middle, or Jadon Sancho in some cases, will tuck in and try to pull this fullback out of position to create space for the overlap, whether it's Malacia or Shaw. Either one of them will try get this space out wide. And if they can't, then the ball will get worked through the middle or will get recycled to the other side, and you'll see Dalot bomb forward, and then you'll see whether it's Varane or Maguire tuck on this side, and you'll see Shaw drop in this side, and we'll basically try to do the same thing this side. We'll try get the defender to get drawn in. It's nothing special. Every team in the world literally tries to do this. Get that space out wide so that your fullback or your wing back can get into position to cross. Now, that relies on everybody knowing exactly what they need to do off the ball in terms of off the ball movement whilst their teammates are recycling possession on the halfway line. And I think Diogo Dalot has done an excellent job of that. His stats genuinely prove this, right? We know that he has improved as a player in terms of going forward. If you look at these, this is from FBref. If you look at some of these statistics, I want you to focus on the statistics at the bottom. His crosses into the penalty area, his passes into the final third, and then his long passes completed. That whole bottom area over there, it's pretty impressive. In terms of long passes completed, he's sitting in the 81st percentile, which I think is pretty decent across the top 5 leagues in Europe so far this season. His key passes, 87th percentile. That's pretty decent for a wingback, playing in a team with Bruno Fernandes, playing in a team with Christian Eriksen, playing in a team with Anthony Rashford, and with Luke Shaw on the other side. And we generally attack a lot down the left-hand side. This season, we're a lot less one-dimensional, and it is more spread out, but majority of our attacks are still coming down that left-hand side because of the connection that Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford have, but also just the way that Bruno drifts into that side and just how we've been operating as a team over the last few years. So for Diogo Dalot to have this much of an involvement going forward in terms of crosses played into the penalty area as well as key passes is pretty impressive if you ask me. Now, his progressive passing is not that high, and honestly that's a very misleading stat because progressive passes is usually a good measure of how many balls somebody's playing into the final third. But if you watch Manchester United play, Diogo Dalot isn't responsible for progressing the ball up the field. Usually he's either playing a sideways pass to Casemiro infield to try, build up and help with the general build up of Manchester United at the base, or he's getting on the end of progressive passes that are being sprayed by Eriksen. A good example in yesterday's game, I'll try demonstrate it as best I can. It was, I think West Ham were basically sitting in their own half, and they left Casemiro with all the space. So Casemiro was standing over here. It was a 3 setup. I forget who was in the midfield. I believe it was Bruno and Eriksen. And there was 2 West Ham players pressing because West Ham was set up in a 4-4-2 yesterday. They were set up in a 4-4-2, and Casemiro knew that because of this 4-4-2, the 2 strikers were going to press. So what he would do is drop in between the 2 centre-backs to create a back 3 and give Martinez and Maguire that extra passing option. And what happened in yesterday's game was he got the ball in basically in this area. He was being pressured by 2 West Ham players, played a nice long diagonal to Dalot, who got into a lot of space, and he was able to then play a very good cross into Marcus Rashford, I believe it was, who headed it downwards into the goalkeeper. Now, that could have easily been a goal. We've seen Dalot get into these positions a lot based off of Casemiro switching the play or Anthony cutting in and laying it off to him or whoever it is playing out on that right-hand side. We've seen Dalot on a few occasions whipping across to Fred, who's hit the post a couple of times from this situation. I know the cross that was played at the weekend was by Scott McTominay, but Dalot has whipped in across to Fred specifically in the game against Ammonia, and Fred also missed that one as well. And it was a very very good header. Like, Fred can't seem to score off headers. I think in an alternate universe, to quote Statman David, Fred would be the top goal scorer of the Premier League. I genuinely believe that because he's had so many opportunities. I'm obviously just kidding, but you get what I mean, right? Anyways, Dalot has gotten into these positions quite a lot for Manchester United, and he's crossing the ball a lot more. One of the biggest criticisms about Diego Dalot under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is that a lot of Manchester United fans were saying this guy is supposed to be good going forward, but we never see any crosses. We never see any progressive passes. We never see any through balls. We never see any tangible things that he brings to the table. But what people need to understand is that that was down to a systemic issue. That was down to tactics. Now that we have someone like Erik ten Hag who has a style of play that's conducive to the likes of Diego Dalot, we're starting to see how genuinely important his attacking qualities are, right? And the thing is, it's not just about crossing the ball. It's not just about key passes played. It's not just about like actual, chances created. Sometimes it's about what you do in the build-up. Sometimes it's about what you do to draw other people out of play with your off-ball movement. Sometimes those things go a long way. And that's why I pointed out the whole thing about inverted fullbacks. It's so important to the way we build up. That 3-1-6 shape that we play on the halfway line, that relies on our fullbacks being able to invert, or alternatively, Casemiro dropping in to create a back three and one player holding in the middle of the park. But that all relies on people knowing where they need to be. And Dalot has done an excellent job of that. Now, defensively, he's also improved. Yes, in terms of blocks, in terms of clearances, he's not that high because he's not a centre-back, so he's not going to block that many shots. But where he has been very pivotal for Manchester United is in terms of interceptions. He's ranking in the 79th percentile across the top 5 leagues in Europe so far this season. Now, that's not particularly great in terms of if you want to compare him to some of the best defensive right-backs in the world, but considering that we're talking about Diego Dalot, somebody who we know has deficiencies, I would say that's reasonably good. Genuinely speaking, I think that's okay. He's performing at a decent standard. And remember, Diego Dalot offers so much more than just tackling, than just interceptions. His recovery pace is so important. There was a moment in yesterday's game where I believe it was West Ham. They got the ball in a very dangerous area, somewhere over here, right? And Maguire obviously doesn't have that much pace. So he was beaten on the halfway line. And I believe it was Ben Rama who got a clean break basically down this on his left-hand side, but our right-hand side, if that makes any sense at all. Dalot came back and Martinez came back. And it was a situation where Martinez was basically trying to cut off the shot, right? Martinez was trying to cut off the shot. On another day, if Dalot doesn't come and cut off this part over here, Ben Rama is able to cut in and get a shot off with his right foot. And Martinez can't do anything about it because Martinez's body shape is not in the right position to adjust himself and run the other way. We've seen it time and time again where there's a clean break, the defender is looking one way and trying to cut off an angle one way, and then you cut the opposite way and it messes with their body shape and they can't turn quickly enough to stop you. Dalot does a really good job of covering that angle for Martinez with his recovery pace, and it was pivotal. He did this a couple of times yesterday, which to me demonstrates that he's improving an area of his game that a lot of people said was very weak. At 2 areas of his game, actually. 1 is positional awareness, and 2 is concentration. Now, those 2 things are kind of linked, but concentration can apply to other things, like on a corner when you're supposed to be standing on the back post and a ball comes in and you're ball watching instead of doing something to proactively stop it. That's an example of where concentration is applicable outside of positional awareness. But the point is, he's improving those 2 areas of his game. One thing that people have leveled against Diego Dalot is his lapses in concentration and his lack of positional awareness. He is improving those things. He's not perfect. He still gets caught out a lot. He still makes a lot of mistakes, but that's more to do with the system and less to do with him as an individual. Because again, when you play a high line, you're going to get caught out of position. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. Manchester City get hit on the counter every other weekend. Yes, they don't concede enough goals to lose games because they're just that good, but the point is they make mistakes too. So if Manchester City, one of the best teams in the world, makes mistakes, why is it that Manchester United are not allowed to make mistakes? You know what I mean? Like, we're going to make mistakes because of our high line, because of the fact that we are a team that now plays attacking football and takes the initiative from the opposition and tries to control games. A byproduct of that, an unfortunate byproduct of that, is that we are going to get hit on the break when we're playing this aggressive 3-1-6 shape or this aggressive 2-3-5 shape in attack to try break down low blocks. We only have 2 or 3 defenders on the halfway line at a time. So naturally, if there's 4 people getting away on a clean break, it's going to be difficult, whether it's Dalot, whether it's Wan-Bissaka, even though Wan-Bissaka doesn't play anymore, whether it's Shaw, Malacia down at the other side, or whether it's our centre-backs, Varane, Maguire, Lindelof or Martinez. They're going to get caught out of position. That's normal. But I think Diego Dalot is using his recovery pace, his positional awareness, and his concentration a lot better, more often than not. So those are the areas that have impressed me. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about is mentality. Because so much of player development and so much of tactical understanding, so much of technical ability, right? Like passing, playing crosses, all of the technical aspects of the game. So much of that is only possible if you apply yourself as an individual, if you're willing to work hard, if you have the self-awareness to say, you know what, these areas of my game need improving. These areas of my game need improving, and it's up to me to not only walk into the coach's office and say, hey, I have this issue. What do I need to do? You're the boss. You're the analyst. Tell me what mistakes I'm making based on the footage you've seen in training. That's the first part. The second part is taking whatever you got from that meeting and going and applying it. And not just applying it in regular contact training with your teammates, but staying the extra hour with your video analyst, with your defensive coach, or by yourself, trying to fix certain aspects of your game, if at all possible, doing extra drills, going the extra mile on match day, making sure that you're not slacking, things that have nothing to do with talent and things that have nothing to do with raw ability, such as tracking back, such as making sure that you are in the right position at the right time, and skill sets that generally don't rely on talent, but rather rely on psychology and mentality. That's up to you as an individual. There's no excuses for that. And I like the fact that Diego Dalot, unlike other Manchester United players over the last few years, instead of blaming the manager, instead of playing the victim, instead of playing, woe is me, I'm not getting game time at Manchester United. No, I'm going to wait for the new manager to come in. I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to work extremely hard until I get picked. And look what's happened. Look what's happened as a result of that. He could have easily handed in a transfer request and said, you know what, this Ole Gunnar Solskjaer guy is not playing me. This Ralf Rangnick guy, he's also not playing me. He's also not giving me opportunities, and he's not playing me in the system that I want to play in. I'm going to leave. No, he waited, he put his head down, he grafted, and so it came to be. The fruits of his labor are finally being enjoyed. So I think that's the three main reasons why I think Diego Dalot has been one of the most impressive players to watch this season, if not the most impressive player to watch. I would have loved to make videos about Martinez. I would have loved to make videos about Casemiro. I would have loved to make videos about other Manchester United players, but I feel like it's important to talk about Diego Dalot because the majority of Manchester United fans had turned their back on this guy and weren't really convinced of what he could bring to the team. And I'm not trying to be that guy who's, I'm right, you're wrong, look at me, look at what I said 3 years ago. But I did say that Diego Dalot has always had potential. And I've always said that do not judge Diego Dalot on his stint under Rangnick or his few appearances under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because players like him need time. They need a big enough sample space of games where you can say, okay, you've started 15 games, 20 games in the Premier League now. Now we can definitively judge you and assess you as a player. Until that point comes, we cannot judge Diego Dalot. And I said that under Oli. These are the words I said under Oli. These are the words I said under Rangnick. We need to give this guy time. He might not be the finished article. He might not go on to be a great right back for Manchester United, but let's give him time. And I'm glad that even though it's still early days, even though this isn't enough evidence to say that Diego Dalot 100% deserves to start for Manchester United for the next, 2 or 3 seasons, it's a good start. It's a good start. People are starting to see, okay, there's potential here. This kid has something to offer. He might not be the finished article and the most well-rounded defender, but he has a lot to offer this team, and he's part of the reason why we've gone on such a good run under Erik ten Hag. You know what I mean? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's been your boy TripleM. Leave a like on the video if you want to support the channel, and subscribe if you want to. Peace.